unique place, unique for the very beginning of our story of the ages of globalization. We're in the hall of the Cradle of Humankind at the National Museum of Nairobi. We are in a place that really could not exist any other place in the world, because in Kenya there is a record of human evolution that is unique, and this special place describes that evolution. I'm standing in front of a display case of a skeleton of a chimpanzee and of a modern human being. The chimpanzee on the left, the modern human being on the right. Evolutionary biologists, and especially paleoanthropologists who study the evolution of humankind, believe that humans emerged from great ape species, with the last common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees being around 6 million years ago. Around 6 million years ago, a new species developed that was standing upright, and that would become, through bipedalism and further evolution, eventually the forebearers of Homo sapiens, of modern humanity. This exhibition highlights some of the evolutionary divergences that occurred. You can see the different shapes of the bodies: chimpanzees with arms that are longer than legs, human beings with legs that are longer than arms. The brain case being very different, because the brain size of a Homo sapien is about 1,400 cubic centimeters, compared to a brain size of about 400 cubic centimeters, less than 1/3 of a chimpanzee. But with all of the differences, what is notable is that genetically, humans and chimpanzees are more than 96% the same in our overall genome. Now, human evolution was not understood scientifically throughout most of the speculation about origins of humanity, whether by philosophers or theologians or early scientists. The modern study of evolution began in the 19th century, and the modern theory of human evolution began with Charles Darwin in 1859, with his publication of The Origin of Species. That was a breakthrough book about evolution in general, and Darwin followed that up 12 years later with his book on the descent of man in 1871. And in that book, The Descent of Man, Darwin hypothesized that humanity had evolved from the great apes, had evolved in Africa, and that this was a process of long and gradual evolution. Of course, this was not the prevailing understanding at the time. In the Christian world, the idea of human creation was that God created Adam and then Eve from the rib of Adam in the first days of the creation. And so Darwin's theory of evolution initially sparked a huge uproar and a huge dissent, but over time it has become absolutely the central scientific theory, and major religions have found congruence and peace with the theory of evolution. Well, in this cradle of humanity, we have a wondrous exhibition about the fossil remains that have been discovered in Kenya over that 6 million year period, from the last common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees and the evolutionary path to modern human beings, that is, to Homo sapiens. There's a lot that still is not known, but the wondrous discoveries of paleoanthropologists in Kenya and in other parts of the world have filled in much of the decisive information. We can say, broadly speaking, and with huge apologies for the vacation, that there is a line of evolution broadly traced from this first divergence to what are called Australopithecines, which is the term used from the ancient Greek roots for southern apes, and Australopithecines are proto-human species whose fossil records are found around 4 million years ago. And then from the Australopithecines, a further evolution into a group of homonyms, which are now the beginning of our human family, Homo family, homonyms that evolved around 2 to 2.5 million years ago, which have been called Homo habilis, the handyman, because of the ability of the Homo habilis to make stone tools. From the Homo habilis was a further evolution with a lot that is still uncertain of when and where and how, to the Homo erectus species. The Homo erectus is a type of homonym, a Homo species that migrated all over the world and that lived in Asia, in the Middle East, in Africa, for a long period from roughly 2 million years ago to around 100,000 years ago, and then disappeared perhaps because of the inability to adjust to climatic changes that were occurring, or for other reasons. But from Homo habilis to Homo erectus came further species in the Homo line, which would eventually become Homo sapiens. And in this exhibition, we see one crucial species, Homo heidelbergensis, which leaves a fossil record around 600,000 years ago, and is thought, with uncertainty, but is believed by paleoanthropologists to be the eventual progenitor of modern humanity. Homo heidelbergensis apparently gives rise in evolutionary time to Homo sapiens and to Neanderthals. And Neanderthals are another Homo species, another homonym that we understand lived alongside, also interbreeded with Homo sapiens as recently as 40 or 50,000 years ago. So from Homo habilis to Homo erectus to Homo heidelbergensis to Neanderthals and to Homo sapiens comes the basic hypothesized line of human evolution. Now, this means that there were lots of human cousins all over the world, lots of different Homo species, homonyms, and indeed Homo erectus, the Neanderthals, the Homo florensis, Denisovans, and other Homo species are now understood to have cohabited the planet in the last hundreds of thousands of years. But here is the basic point for us in understanding the origins of our world, of the world of Homo sapiens, and that is that all modern humans, all Homo sapiens, according to the very best evidence, emerged from a single species that migrated from Africa around 70,000 years ago. So while there were Neanderthals and Denisovans and Homo florensis and 100,000 years ago, Homo erectus still living, all modern humans emerged from a single period of migration out of Africa in which Homo sapiens, modern human beings, spread around the world. The best scientific evidence, therefore, has settled a long debate, and that debate is known as monogenesis versus polygenesis. Did humans evolve in many different places in the world at different times, or are all human beings evolved from a single place and time followed by migration? The polygenesis idea, which became the basis of unscientific, but in quotation marks, scientific racism, said that the different races of humanity had evolved separately. And that idea was used also to rank different races of humanity hierarchically. These are the advanced, these are the primitive, and so forth. And polygenesis was an idea that was adopted to say, well, these species are the most evolved. These species are the savages, as if there were different species of humanity. The monogenesis hypothesis, which now has overwhelming scientific basis, backed not only by the fossil record, but now by using DNA and tracing the actual genomic evolution of modern humanity, overwhelmingly argues for a single genesis of us, of modern human beings, and the emergence of modern human beings from a migration from Africa around 70,000 years ago. For a brief period after that migration, modern humans, or Homo sapiens, lived alongside Neanderthals and perhaps other Homo hominin cousins of modern humanity. But all of those disappeared from view, perhaps because of their inability compared to Homo sapiens to adapt to changing environments, or for other reasons that are still unknown. But what is the core scientific point is that all of us are all together from one species and one mass migration out of Africa. It's notable when you enter the airport in Nairobi, a big sign says, "Welcome home." This is true for all of us, all human beings. We are home in Africa. We are part of migration out of Africa, and we share a common ancestry, and we share a common fate today. Now, the evolution did not stop with the migration out of Africa, because it is hypothesized, and again with a lot of uncertainty and still a lot of debate, that some of the crucial features which make us humans, how we interact with each other, the use of language itself, and the development of culture, may have arisen after that migration began. This is not known. We don't have a fossil record for language. We only have the evidence of anthropological sites of the fossil record, and trying to make inferences as best as possible. But it seems that what are deemed to be the human traits of our sociality, the human traits of our morality, the human traits of our language, both for purposes of thought and for purposes of communication, also arose early on, perhaps slightly after the first migration, or perhaps at around the same time, or perhaps as part of that process. But we can say that for the last 50 to 70,000 years, we are modern human beings in all crucial dimensions, and yet modern human beings out to populate the world in all its reaches, to reach all parts of the world, and to begin the story of the development of society and the development of economy, our story of the ages of globalization. While there still is much to know about the evolution of modern humans, we do know that we have been together in this for the last 70,000 years, in the migration from Africa, in the development of our basic human traits, our culture, our morality, our language. And humans have spread throughout the world in that first age of globalization, reaching all parts of the world, all parts of the old world, and then through the land bridge between Asia and the Americas, Beringia, reaching the New World from around 20,000 years ago and reaching all parts of the Americas. This has been our common adventure, the adventure of Homo sapiens as a common species with a common origin, and now a common fate.